really wanted to find out who my father was, and for the case not to go how I was planning it, I really thought it was going to go different than what it was. But well, I really feel like it should have been over with, because the first time I heard that Jay-Z probably was my father when I was 8 years old, my mom came up to me and was like, "Hey Rob, I got something to tell you. That's your dad for real. That you don't just say this type of person is your father, Jay-Z." It is important that I know who my biological father is. I don't know how he feeling. Like I would hope he would think about.
Met Jay-Z, yeah, and had intercourse with him. How old was she?
I would say I think she was about 16, 17, or 16, just turning 16 or 17. I know it was one of them.
And Jay-Z was what age?
I wouldn't happen to know. I think he was he in his 20s?
I read 22.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think I read 22, but he was in his 20s.
Yes, I wouldn't happen to know his age, but 22, I'm pretty sure if they put that out there, then
yeah,
that's what his age was.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just want to point out to our audience that Jay-Z having with a minor would make that child rape because she was underage at the time. And then furthermore, the fact that he took her from one state to another state, I imagine would be in a violation of state laws.
Wow.
So moving forward, it seemed that Jay-Z, via his people, were willing to work something out behind the scenes, and then all of a sudden that stopped. Why? Why do you think that he is refusing to take a paternity test and stopped, working with you all behind the scenes? What was driving that, in your opinion?
Well, part of it was a rumor that was told that he didn't like the fact that this particular case was in the public. And he had a problem with Ramir putting it in the public, which was not Ramir, was his mother. So basically, in a nutshell, I just believe that was a big part of it. He didn't like the fact that it was in public. There was a time that Mr. Carter was trying to resolve the matter in the very beginning, and he was doing it in the best interest of Ramir. And then somewhere he left his heart and started thinking with his head.
Do you think part of it is because Wanda was 16?
Yeah, well, definitely that's the big part of it. The allegations that we have, that the affidavit says that Wanda was 16 and he was 22. That's in Wanda's own words.
Right.
So therefore, yeah, that would be something that would make some people uncomfortable.
Right. Well, it's a crime. But for the record, you did tell me that Wanda told you that she did tell Jay-Z that she was of legal age. Is that true?
Right. She did tell me that she told him she was 18 or something, whatever he had to go to the police about several things. There's people, like you said, came up to the property. Some of them knocked on Ramir's window. They wanted Ramir to drop the case of respect early on. There's been a lot of what they call intimidation.com, and that's basically say they didn't give me my paperwork back. Like, I did the swab and spit in it and then get sent it to them. And when I called to try to get my information, basically it was an error, and I never heard of that.
There was an error? They wouldn't give you your paperwork?
Yeah, they wouldn't give me my paperwork from Ancestry.com. Now you have people saying use 23andMe. And I just want people to know, like, the courts got my DNA. So if they wanted to test my DNA, for me just to keep spending all this money, these guys can test it. It's Jay-Z and them. And it's the judges. They have everything they need. So obviously I'm not out of the fight, and I won't stop. It's not just about no Jay-Z. I'm not just chasing Jay-Z. That's not what it's about. My mom passed away fighting this case until she was gone. So that's more important to me than.
You believe that Beyonce may have been one of the reasons why there wasn't a resolution?
I do believe that. Like in the very beginning, they didn't have a daughter. And there was seemed like we were understanding there was complications in getting conceived, etc.
Right.
And I felt like that would make some women, and it seemed like for her, she would fit that bill, uncomfortable about him having a fully grown son with a talent.
Right.
So I do believe that she had a problem. If it was true, she would have a problem with the fact that Ramir was in the picture or coming in the picture, because that was a vulnerable time.
Right.
But clearly now, 10 years later, 12 years later, you would think somebody would say, hey, let's just get this out of the way.
So with everybody, it's your boy Ramirez here. I just want to get on here and let everybody know the updates, what's going on. It's been a crazy couple weeks, y'all. I want to let y'all know that I have not stopped my fight. You know, I did withdraw my case. It's for a reason, y'all. It's not because I'm stopping with it or not going to refile it or anything like that. It's just a lot going on behind closed doors. That's only one case that we withdrew for right now. But it's a lot going on. You know how this industry works. These judges, these lawyers, these high celebrity people, they try to use all different types of tactics and call it what you want, bully tactics and different types of stuff to, you know, slow it down and just change the narrative. So it's like, hey, we got to step back and play chess, not checkers. So we sitting back and we just observing everything right now. I just ask y'all to keep the support. Keep the support. I have not gotten any DNA tests. I have not gotten any settlement, anything like.
What if one of the most powerful figures in music has been hiding a secret that could unravel everything people think they know about him? Because right now, a decades-old claim is resurfacing with new intensity. And at the center of it is a man who says he's been fighting his entire life to prove that Jay-Z is his father. But this isn't just about a paternity claim. It's about a legal battle that refuses to go away, allegations that raise serious questions, and whispers that the situation may have even reached inside his own family, specifically involving Blue Ivy Carter. Because if even a fraction of this is true, then this isn't just a private matter. It's a story that could change how the world sees one of hip-hop's biggest icons. So the real question is, why has this never been fully resolved? The story traces all the way back to the early 1990s, long before the fame, the billion-dollar empire, and the carefully curated image. A woman named Wanda Satterthwaite claimed she met Jay-Z through mutual connections during that time, when he was still building his name. According to her account, what started as a brief encounter turned into something that would alter her life forever. She alleged that after they met, the two became intimate, and despite claims that protection was used, she later discovered she was pregnant. From that moment on, her life reportedly shifted into survival mode. Raising a child on her own, she maintained that the man she believed to be the father was absent, leaving her to navigate motherhood without support, recognition, or closure. That child would grow up to be Rymir Satterthwaite, the man now at the center of this ongoing controversy. As the years went on, what might have been a quiet, unresolved chapter turned into an all-out legal and personal battle. Wanda allegedly made repeated attempts to reach out, tried to establish contact and seek support, but according to claims, those efforts were met with resistance or silence. At one point, another man's name was placed on the birth certificate, reportedly out of necessity rather than truth. But once that situation changed, the pursuit of answers resumed. Efforts to secure child support and legal recognition reportedly led to court filings, only for the case to face setbacks that raised eyebrows. Documents dismissed, proceedings stalled, and claims that influence may have played a role in keeping the case from moving forward only added to the frustration. And through it all, one question lingered louder than ever. If the truth is so simple, why has it been so difficult to prove? But then the story takes a much more serious turn, because this isn't just about whether or not a man fathered child. According to statements attributed to Wanda, she was allegedly underage at the time of the encounter. To be clear, these are allegations, not confirmed facts, but if true, they introduce an entirely different level of gravity to the situation. Suddenly, this isn't just a paternity dispute. It becomes a matter that touches on legality, ethics, and accountability. It also raises uncomfortable questions about why this case, out of all cases, might be handled with such caution, silence, or resistance. Because if there's more at stake than just reputation, it could explain why this situation has remained unresolved for so long. And just when it seemed like the case might finally move toward answers, something shifted. According to individuals close to Rymir, including his godmother, there was a period where things appeared to be progressing behind the scenes. There were claims that communication had opened up, that there was at least some willingness to address the situation privately. But then, almost as quickly as it began, that momentum reportedly stopped. Lawyers became more involved, the tone changed, and what once seemed like a possible resolution turned into silence again. Journalists who have followed the story closely began asking the same question everyone else was thinking. What changed? What made a situation that was allegedly moving toward closure suddenly shut down? From there, the narrative becomes even more unsettling. There have been claims, again, and proven but persistent, of intimidation tactics, of pressure to drop the case, and of strange obstacles appearing at critical moments. Reimer has alleged that attempts to gather DNA evidence, including through ancestry testing, were somehow disrupted or never returned. There are also claims that he and those close to him experienced forms of harassment after refusing to back down. Whether these incidents are coincidences, misunderstandings, or something more deliberate remains unclear. But together, they add a layer of tension that's hard to ignore. Because when a case involves power, influence, and unanswered questions, the line between truth and rumor can become dangerously blurred. And that leaves everyone wondering, is this just a long-running claim with no proof, or is there something deeper that's been kept out of sight all along? As the story continued to unfold, another layer quietly entered the conversation, one that shifted the focus from legal battles to something far more personal. Because when you're talking about Jay-Z, you're not just talking about a solo figure. You're talking about one half of one of the most powerful couples in entertainment. And naturally, speculation began to circle around Beyoncé. Now, to be clear, there is no confirmed evidence tying her directly to any decisions in this case. But some close to the situation have suggested that concerns about public image and timing may have played a role in how things unfolded. At the time when this situation was allegedly being discussed behind closed doors, Beyoncé was entering a new chapter of her life, preparing to welcome her daughter, Blue Ivy Carter. And from a purely human perspective, it's not hard to imagine how the idea of a previously unknown child suddenly entering the picture could create tension. For some, the question becomes less about guilt or innocence and more about priorities. Do you protect your family and the image you've built, or do you confront a past that could disrupt everything? But if that internal conflict was ever just a quiet possibility, rumors suggest it didn't stay that way for long. Because according to circulating claims, the situation may have reached a breaking point when Blue Ivy herself allegedly became aware of the controversy. Now, none of this has been publicly confirmed, but the idea alone has been enough to fuel intense speculation. The narrative being pushed in some circles is that for years, Blue was raised within a carefully controlled image of her parents. Powerful, admired, untouchable. So if she did come across allegations involving a secret sibling, a long-running legal dispute, and questions about her father's past, it could have been a moment that changed everything. Some rumors even go as far as to claim that her reaction created distance within the family, though again, these remain unverified. Still, it's this possibility, the collision between public image and private truth, that gives this story its emotional weight. Because beyond the headlines and legal filings, this becomes a story about trust, identity, and what happens when the narrative you've always known is suddenly called into question. And while the emotional side of the story continues to spark conversation, the legal battle itself is far from over. Reimer Satterthwaite has made it clear that, despite setbacks, he's not walking away. He previously filed a lawsuit seeking to establish paternity and bring clarity to his claims, only to later withdraw it under circumstances he described as strategic rather than final. According to his own statements, stepping back doesn't mean giving up, it means regrouping. He's insisted that no settlement has been reached, no DNA test has been completed, and that his fight is about more than just recognition. It's about honoring his mother's efforts and finally getting answers. And that's what keeps this story alive. Because as long as there are unresolved claims and unanswered questions, this isn't a closed chapter. It's an ongoing situation that could resurface at any moment. Meanwhile, the public has been anything but quiet. Reactions have been split right down the middle, with some people fully backing Reimer's persistence, arguing that if there's even a chance his claims are true, he deserves the opportunity to prove it. Others, however, remain skeptical, pointing to the lack of definitive evidence and the length of time this has been circulating without resolution. Online discussions have turned into full-blown debates, with some accusing powerful figures of avoiding accountability, while others caution against jumping to conclusions based on allegations alone. And in the middle of it all, the truth feels just out of reach, blurred by speculation, loyalty, doubt, and the sheer scale of the names involved. So now it all comes down to one lingering question. Is this the story of a man chasing answers that have been denied for decades? Or is it another rumor that grew too big to contain? Because until there's definitive proof one way or the other, the mystery surrounding Jay-Z, his alleged past, and the claims made by Rymir Satterthwaite isn't going anywhere. And if history has shown anything, it's that stories like this have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them.